What up, fish friends? Today we're going to be going over my 45-gallon tall tank. This is an ancient aquarium. I resealed it, built a stand and canopy for it, gave it a second life. Starting with the stand and canopy, I'm not like an expert builder by any means, but I did put a lot of time into this. I really love the natural wood finish. I didn't want to have anything painted or stained. I just routed some edging into it, gave everything a good sand down, and finished it off with some polyurethane. It's not completely waterproof, but pretty much. Let's talk about the livestock in here. I got a couple species of dwarf rainbows, a few female threadfin rainbows, and then a school of mixed male and female Gertrude's rainbows. The Gertrude's rainbows are really pretty. They're fun to watch. Super animated fish. The males are like maybe the horniest fish that you'll ever see. They're just constantly strutting against each other, flapping their fins out, trying to impress the females. One thing that they'll do is they'll pick like a little mossy spot and then they'll guard that territory. And as soon as a female comes over by that mossy spot, they get all excited, flap their fins out, you know, hey, look at me. Their colors really pop. They are, like I said, pretty adamant about catching the female's eye. So it's a good idea to have at least 2, maybe even 3 females to every male. It's the same thing with threadfin rainbows. If you had males and females, you'd want to divvy it out to have 2 to 3 females for every male. The rainbows spend a lot of time swimming around at the top of the tank, which makes them a really fun fish. Most of my other tanks, I have kind of middle and bottom dwelling fish. They like to weave in and out of the plants. I know that I have like a dozen, maybe 13 or 14 in there, but I'm never able to count them all at once because there's always some that are hiding, you know, like well within stem plants. These Gertrude's rainbows are pretty hardy for dwarf rainbow species. These guys got really small mouths, so if I'm feeding them flake food, I'll really like grind it up as tiny as I can get it and spread it out in water. Otherwise, I like to hatch brine shrimp for them, and then I like to feed them grindle worms. They love live grindle worms. What's up, Henry? Feed them frozen daphnia, frozen cyclops. Try and give them a lot of meaty foods, but they are actually omnivores, so it's good to give them some, you know, frozen peas if they'll eat it, some algae wafers. Make sure to get them a little bit of fiber in their diet. Then I have a big old school of Kuhli laoches. There's about 15 Kuhlis in here. This rock structure I call Kuhli Castle. They basically live in all these little cracks and nooks and crannies. They like to swim in and out of the stem plants. The leaves are really great for the Kuhli laoches. I'm not sure that they're really eating biofilm off the leaf or anything, but they do spend a lot of time just kind of hiding under there, going in and out. It's a good way to encourage your Kuhli laoches to come out. The Kuhlis are pretty easy to take care of. Most of them I've rehomed as adults from other people. They are really sensitive when they're tiny, small baby fish, but as they get older, they're pretty hardy. The Kuhlis are definitely not picky eaters. They get leftovers, essentially. I just make sure to dump in a bunch of extra food. Kuhlis do freak out during water changes when you first get them. It took about, like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months for these guys to get used to the water change routines, me putting my hands in there. It's not unusual for them to zigzag around the tank, go up and down, look chaotic, like absolutely dramatic fish. But the longer you have them, the more accustomed they get. In terms of the algae crew, I got a ton of green jade shrimp in here. They started off as like kind of a yellow and green colony. I ordered them from Aquatic Arts, and I don't know if they should have been 2 different colors, but they've eventually all bred together and ended up just being a very dark green coloration, pretty consistent throughout the whole colony. they do a pretty good job staying on top of algae. I do get little bits of blackbeard in here, which I blast with some Excel like maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And you can see here it's starting to build up. So I actually blasted it this morning. Some of it's dying off, and then once it dies off, because of the Excel, the shrimp are able to eat it. It's like starting to turn a little red now, and you can see a million little shrimp turds around it, which is a sign that they're starting to eat it, and in a couple days it should be completely gone. The one last species of fish I got in here is clown pleco. I got a pair of them. I very, very, very rarely see them. It's maybe the most disappointing fish I have. They're super pretty when they're out, but they're never out. In terms of plants, it's almost exclusively one species of plant in here, Rotala rotundifolia. This plant is super cool. There's some different varieties. There's green ones, there's red ones, there's super red ones, there's orange ones, all different types. And then depending on how much light you give it, how much nitrates they can get more red or less red. As someone recently told me, they think of it as like a chaotic plant. That's definitely a good way to describe it. It likes to grow out a lot and look kind of wild. And then, there's hitchhikers. I've let this Fiston's fontanus moss grow in here, Java moss. There is some Anubias nana petite, some Java fern Windelov. In terms of maintenance for this tank, I try and do like a 30% water change at least a couple times a month. I'm using a little bit of fertilizer in here, maybe like a few squirts after a water change, sometimes once in between. I'm using Nylock-G's micro and macro nutrients. So 1 squirt macro, 2 squirts micro, which is really not that much for a 45-gallon tank. I run a canister filter on here, Waze Biomaster, little skimmer unit on top. It's not essential, but it does help to keep that that oily film away from the surface. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, checking out my 45-gallon tank. Let me know if you got any questions, drop a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, all that stuff. Support my channel. Appreciate it. Till next time. See ya.